Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Bills Guys. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. Together, we are The Bills Guys. This is a Buffalo Fanatics multicast. Before we get started today, I just want to thank you guys. The fans, the people in the comments section. You guys are the ones who make this show. Like, we know that you guys have tons and tons and tons of choices when it comes to Bills content. For you guys to join us every Monday and Thursday night, it is just an absolute honor. We thank you. We appreciate it. Make sure you hit up the BF chat line at the bottom, 716-219-0086, because just like you guys are the third host of this show in the comment section, which I don't think very many people can say that about very many shows. You could also have a chance to join us here live on the big screen, per se, if you hit up that BF text line. So it's good to be back, and I can't wait to squish the fish. How are you doing tonight, Dave?
Yeah, doing well. And there was someone in the comments already mentioned, getting that game day vibe before we even play, because it's Thursday. We got football on tonight. Quick run through of who's in the house. Josh Barrett is in the house. Your favorite, Randy Bobandy, is in here. F the
Get that
Jets
man
is
some
in
cheeseburger.
here. Corey Buffalo, of course, is in. Mr. Natural, Chris Jenke. We're all Chris Jenke stands on this show. Josh Thornton, Todd Baker, Brian Bowers is in the house. Another regular Dr. Meme. Amy's in the house. I'm looking for him, but I don't see him yet. I don't see Ryan Teal yet, but Noah Bruno's
he's
in
in
the
there.
house. Ryan Teal is in the house. I see him now.
Yeah.
Mo is in the house. Another regular of ours, Richard Rush, is a regular. So Mr. Natural's in there. We've got a lot of people in already. So
Yeah.
what Steve said is so true, because we really thrive on the fan interaction here, and we pride ourselves on that with the show, and really Buffalo Fanatics in general as a network. We pride ourselves on that. You may see other video shows, you may see other shows out there, but I think that for us to make you guys all part of the show is really what we strive to do, and we hope that we do that for you every time you tune in. So we thank you.
I'm trying to adjust my camera to make it. You got the camera set up that's legit. Mine is always makes me look like a midget. So I'm sorry, a little person. So I don't know what the deal is. So I got to get a camera like yours or something, or set up like yours. I'm struggling.
I sent the link to Joe, to everybody. I mean, it looks pretty crisp from what I could tell.
I'm 95% sure we have the same webcam. I just don't know what's up with mine. But anyway, I digress. Let's get started tonight, and let's talk about Bills Dolphins, because I'm really excited. Obviously, I think the major focus for the Buffalo Bills. I got a beer tonight. Someone said no wine. I got a little beer.
Zach Allen's now in the house, and Stephen Campione, a couple more regulars. So I figured shout them out.
Thursday here. Someone mentioned earlier Joe Burrow versus Baker Mayfield tonight. So the worse Baker does, the better Josh looks. So that's always fun. But all right, let's get things rolling here with Bills Dolphins. Obviously, I think the major talking point. Dolphins are 0-1. They looked, I'm not going to lie to you, I rewatched that Patriots-Dolphins game, and it was tough for me just not to fall asleep. Those are just two average teams, and the Jets are well below average, and we took it to them for the most part. The game was really never that close when we played them. We shot ourselves in the foot, which is what kept the score technically close. So let's just get right into it. Bills, Dolphins preview, and I want to start with injuries today, because this is what is going to sort of, I think, dominate the storylines of this game heading into it. And that's the one thing I'm worried about heading into this game, because if you look at the injury list for the Buffalo Bills, let's start there. Matt Milano did not practice today. Delshon Phillips did not practice. Tremaine Edmonds, limited, no contact. Jerry Hughes, Isaiah McKenzie were limited. Vernon Butler, John Brown, who gave us a scare, Tyrell Dodson, they were all back, full participation. It's Milano and it's Edmonds that scare me. I'm starting to think Edmonds plays Sunday, but I'm thinking Milano's probably not. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if by Thursday you're not practicing, that's usually a pretty good indication that you're not going to suit up, especially when it comes to these soft tissue injuries, right? I think the Bills will play it safe with this one. If this was something like an ankle sprain or something that you can also manage the pain tolerance, and not that you can't re-aggravate an ankle sprain, but something that you would less likely re-aggravate, then I can maybe see an outside chance of people who didn't practice today maybe suiting up. But I just don't see Milano suiting up at this rate. It is a little interesting to me that at this point they haven't necessarily put him on the IR yet to miss 3 games. And let me just bring up Pete's super chat here.
If you have small children around, make sure you're covering their eyes.
Yeah, it's largely covered. So thanks, Pete. Is that Pete Boner almost is what it looks like, but it's not.
Thank you, Pete. We appreciate the super chat.
Thanks, Pete. So anyway, before I got distracted there, they haven't put Milano on the IR yet, and we know that with the IR this year, it's only a 3-game situation. So maybe they're holding out hope, but I wouldn't be surprised if either they do that by tomorrow, or if they don't. To me, if they don't put Milano on the IR, it means to me that they're fully expecting him back at least by the next game, because otherwise, why would you not put him on IR?
Yeah, I think. I mean, didn't we wait until Saturday to put Josh Norman on IR last time? Yeah. I really do think we're going to put Matt Milano on IR, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I really think that's going to be
the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
The Bills have been super cautious with soft tissue injuries, and if I would honestly prefer Matt Milano go on IR and give him 3 weeks rest and get him back here in a month fully healthy. Look at the Jets last year with C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley hurt his hamstring against the Bills week 1. He ended up playing half a game the rest of the season because they kept trying to rush him back and rush him back and rush him back. Look over at Miami. Devontae Parker was limited all through training camp with a hamstring injury. They rolled him out there week 1. He lasted a half before he got hurt. And now he's practicing again today for Miami. I doubt we see Devontae Parker for more than a half if he plays. The Miami is just being stupid and desperate. We don't have to be stupid and desperate.
Yeah, did you hear what Brian Flores said about it too? He said they're not concerned about his He said something. I don't want to. It's not a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something to the effect of, "We're not worried about his history of soft tissue injuries." Like meaning, like they weren't considering that as a factor for him practicing and potentially playing this week, which our guy Gage, Aziz, our injury guy, our medical guy, basically came out and was like, that's ridiculous. The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So
that's the difference. Like, and I have a lot of respect for Brian Flores too. Mm-hmm. And if Devontae Parker plays this Sunday, like maybe it's just a sort of like the fact that Miami is so desperate for playmakers and offense. Jordan Howard has been dealing with he's not on the injury list, but he's been dealing with a hamstring all season. I mean, they're down to Myles Gaskin, Matt Breida, Preston Williams, who's coming off the knee injury from last year, and like Jakeem Grant and Isaiah Ford. Like they are desperate. And Gesicki, they're desperate for playmakers in Miami, and they're desperate. Maybe the plan for Devontae Parker on Sunday is just to be a decoy to give some of these other guys a shot, because without Devontae Parker taking any attention, because we've seen him eat against the Buffalo Bills last season. That's the only way I can think of the reason why Devontae Parker's going to play.
And the other reason I think that he might play is because their sort of splashy trade acquisition before the season started, a draft favorite of both of ours, Lynn Bowden Jr., is reportedly not picked up all the playbook yet. So he's got to, still learn the playbook. And I think once he's up to speed, if he was up to speed, I could have seen maybe them sitting Devontae and having Lynn up for this game. But I don't even know that Lynn's going to be up for this game. So another reason why they might try to force the issue.
We're going to get back to linebacker first, because that's what I want to lead with, is how are we going to sort of deal with the linebackers, and then we're going to talk about the offense. But before we get through that, did not practice Landon Roberts. That's a pretty big injury. Miami's pretty thin at linebacker. Some other injuries: Xavier Howard, Byron Jones were both limited in practice. Those are their two starting corners. They'll both probably play. Both have been playing through those injuries. Devontae Parker, as we mentioned. Kyle Van Noy saw limited reps last week because of a hand injury. That may continue. Jakeem Grant showed up on their injury list with the calf, and Williams is still on their injury list with his knee injury from last season. So they're a banged-up Miami Dolphins team, and they're a football team that's just not as good as the Buffalo Bills. So my expectations are pretty sky high going into this week. I'm feeling pretty confident we're going to have a victory. But going back to those linebackers, Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds, these are the only two things that hold me back from not wanting to blow the doors off this team. And that is because of the style of offense that Miami plays. Miami likes to play in the short to intermediate. Chan Gailey is very much spread them out to power run. Spread them out to power run. So no Tremaine Edmonds, no Matt Milano. If they don't play, or if they're not 100%, how are they going to be stopping the run? Vernon Butler back helps. Still no Starlo Lele because he opted out. Then you're talking about Chan. You talk about Chan Gailey, how he likes to throw the ball. He likes to throw the ball in the short to intermediate. A lot of screens, a lot of things where he asks the receivers and the tight ends to run after the catch. So not having your two elite sideline to sideline linebackers, or having them at 100%, that's kind of a scary proposition against a team like Miami Dolphins and a play caller like Chan Gailey.
It is, and I think if you're the Dolphins and you look at what you've got in the cupboard for this week as far as offensive skill positions, like you traded for him, or I think that they traded for Matt Breida. They didn't sign him; they traded for him. This would be the week if you're Chan Gailey to unleash Matt Breida in that kind of CJ Spiller-esque type of role. We know Breida is a self-proclaimed one of the fastest guys in the NFL. He even came out and said, I mean, he is fast. And, if he's healthy, he's a pretty good running back. So if it's me and I'm the Bills, like I'm actually probably more worried about Matt Breida. If Jordan Howard was healthy or not, that's fine. I wouldn't worry me as much. But Breida is the guy that I think could, at least the Dolphins could try to plan on him having a coming out party this week. And then even if Devontae Parker's in, we don't expect him to be 100. But Preston Williams is a guy I think that if Devontae Parker's in, I would be very surprised if the Bills still didn't put Trey on Preston Williams, knowing that he's the one that's 100%. So
yeah,
I'm with you on that.
They sort of kind of put their corners on the side against the Jets. It wasn't Trey White mirroring Rashad Perryman the whole game. They might do that again. They might not see, because of the injury, they might not see either as a threat because both of are slowed down. And I say that like not see them as a threat, meaning like they think they're bad or terrible, but just they don't see them either as an elite like alpha receiver that they have to shadow. But Andrew Miller chiming in here: does the linebacker issue fall on McBean or McD for not keeping a good backup linebacker instead of special teams players who play linebacker? That's a really good point. I mean, we've made this comment before on this show when we entered the offseason. Both me and you, we did a show back when we were podcasting. We said, where do we want to see the Buffalo Bills stack some talent and add some talent? And that position was linebacker because Lorenzo Alexander left the cupboard absolutely bare. It was Voshon Joseph, it was Tyrell Dodson, it was Corey Thompson, and it was the two starters in Milano and Edmonds. So the fact that it was just A.J. Klein, who was essentially the Lorenzo replacement, Tyler Matakevich, a special teams guy, Andre Smith, a special teams guy. Yeah, it's super frustrating, Andrew. That falls on both of them. I mean, that really falls on both of them. I think both of them were a little too confident that Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds wouldn't get hurt. And then sure enough, first game, they both go down. And it's a scary proposition because now A.J. Klein is probably going to shift over. Tyrell Dodson will probably take the strong side linebacker spot. I'm fairly confident Tremaine Edmonds is going to play the middle. You're going to have Deion Lacey probably activated off the practice squad to be your backup weak side linebacker. Maybe Andre Smith gets activated too to be your backup strong side linebacker. Because are you going to want to what's what I'm looking for here? Are you going to want to play Tyler Matakevich on defense? Probably not. I wouldn't be surprised. We're talking about Matt Milano. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes to IR. I wouldn't be surprised if Delshon Phillips goes to IR. Are we really going to waste a roster spot on Delshon Phillips for 2-3 weeks while he recovers from a hammy? No, we're not. No, like that's Deion Lacey's spot this week, or that's Andre Smith's spot this week. But Andre Smith is a strong side linebacker. He'd be on A.J. Klein's traditional side as that 2-down thumper. Tyrell Dodson can play the middle. He can play strong side. I don't know if he can play weak side, but I'd like to see it because as a couple of people have mentioned, despite the fact that A.J. Klein is a KG veteran and he knows what he's doing out there and he can use his head to maybe make up for his lack of physical attributes, I still don't like him in coverage. Like you saw, if Le'Veon Bell would have pulled his hammy, that could have been a real bad play for the Buffalo Bills if there wasn't a holding on that play. So
you think he's going to hold up against Matt Breida out of the backfield? There's no way. And Tyrell Dodson's athletic enough. I feel like he could fill that role. Deion Lacey is athletic for a guy that's familiar with the Bills system. Man, you made a great point on Twitter. It was like, how bad a camp did Corey Thompson and Voshon Joseph have for the Bills to bring back Deion Lacey over either one of those guys? It's pretty telling. So I would expect Deion Lacey to be up for this game.
If you would have asked me when Milano went down and then I saw that Delshon Phillips had gone down, if you would have asked me Sunday night, predict who's the Bills starting weak side linebacker next week if Matt Milano doesn't play, I would have bet all the if they wanted to keep AJ Klein on the strong side, I would have bet all the money it would have been Corey Thompson brought back.
Yeah, same here.
And playing in some capacity. Because the guy started a couple of years ago when Matt Milano injured his ankle. I mean, he's been around this team for 3 years. Like, he knows this defense. Thank you again, Pete Bonaker, for the Super Chat, 98 cents. Just going to keep throwing that up and getting distracted tonight, I guess. But, I mean, yeah, I was as shocked as anyone that Corey Thompson and Voshon Joseph didn't get a call. And that it was Deion Lacey who got the call. Deion Lacey that worked out. So, I mean, Deion Lacey knows Sean McDermott's defense from 2 years ago. Somebody mentioned, Amy mentioned, like, call Zoe. A couple people have mentioned call Zoe. But at the end of the day, like, I think you would call Zoe if the injury was going to be a long one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if it was Matt Milano's going to be gone for the season. All right, call Zoe.
You call Zoe. Yeah, you call Zoe if it's a long-term injury or if it's towards the end of the season and you want to bring him up for like the playoff run, right? Those are the two times you probably call him. And honestly, those are probably the two times that he wants to get called, right? I don't think timing makes sense for him to be called now. So Chris says, Chris says, our linebacker situation, we find, guys, that was one play on Le'Veon. Milano just got burned on a completion to Le'Veon as well. No, it's one play. The coach is clearly seeing something in our backup linebackers. Yeah, I mean, they have kind of shown an affinity for guys they have familiarity with to a fault, right? To some extent, right? We saw this with Kurt Coleman. We saw this with AJ Klein. So both of those guys obviously were limited athletically, but they trusted them to fundamentally and, be where they needed to be on the field. So, I mean, truth to heart's mention, he has faith in Klein to kind of handle, that. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I don't know that I am. I'd rather see Klein, stay on that strong side, if anything, but in a pinch, you're going to have to use him probably. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bills handle it. I'm hoping Edmonds does suit up at the, I think if the Bills figure there's not really a chance for him to re-aggravate whatever that injury is, then he probably will. That will be a huge boost because then obviously you can put Klein there back on the strong side and then, take your chances with Dodson maybe or Lacey on the weak side and probably be okay.
I wonder, honestly, if we're going to see a lot of – because I know Miami likes to power run. Don't get me wrong. Just because Chan Gailey spreads them out doesn't mean that he doesn't like to run the football. He spreads people out to run the football. Like, that's their strategy. Like, he doesn't utilize tight ends all that much, which is a peculiar fit with a guy like Mike Gesicki, but Mike Gesicki doesn't block either. We're going to talk about Mike Gesicki. They used him a ton as their slot receiver against the New England Patriots. But it's going to be an interesting situation. Maybe they go two linebackers, AJ Klein, Tremaine Edmonds, and they bring in a lot of Saran Neal and play a lot of dime defense. Put Saran Neal on Mike Gesicki, put Teron Johnson on a Jakeem Grant, and sort of, keep your boundary guys on the boundary. And maybe they utilize Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer in the box more. It'll be really interesting. The Bills definitely are going to have a game plan for sort of masking the inefficiencies that's going to be a linebacker this week. Because I'll bet any money that Matt Milano doesn't play, and if he plays, he's not effective. And I'm fairly confident that Tremaine Edmonds will play. But how high of a percentage of health is he going to be at? Is he going to be a little bit more timid, knowing that shoulder is injured? Like, I saw the practice videos. They weren't really wanting guys to hit him. So Sunday he's going to have to hit people. Chris says, Judge, no love for D. Marlowe. D. Marlowe will play a factor in that as well. Saran Neal, D. Marlowe, Teron Johnson, Cam Lewis. I can see them using a ton of DBs. But when you use a ton of DBs, then they can run on you. You know what I mean? So when you get small, they're gonna send Jordan Howard out there and try to run the ball down your throat. So it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe the Bills sort of accept the fact that Miami is going to run on them a little bit and just try to completely shut down the passing game. That might be a strategy that the Buffalo Bills try to utilize. Somebody mentioned AJ Epinesa. My guess is we'll probably still see AJ Epinesa inactive. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mario Addison standing up a little bit and playing strong side linebacker, especially on maybe obvious running downs when they know they don't have to drop back into coverage. Sean Munley says Saran Neal getting linebacker reps this week. Did you see that somewhere, Sean, or are you just speculating? Because it wouldn't surprise me if they were using him in a linebacker type role. As a traditional linebacker, no. Like, I don't think they're going to play him as a traditional linebacker. That I think just goes against everything the Buffalo Bills are about. But I can see them using him in sort of that joker type of role, like maybe like a Jabril Peppers was used at Michigan back in the day, and that sort of Matt Milano position now in the National Football League. It's very similar. But Neal's a little on the smaller side at 220 something. So let's move now to the offense, because let's talk offense. Let's talk happy times now. Let's talk about the offense. And this is a really intriguing matchup. This is a really intriguing matchup between the Buffalo Bills offense and the Miami Dolphins defense. And the Miami Dolphins defense needs some dissecting. It needs some dissecting. So let's look at their depth chart real quick. And let's start with their defensive line and their front seven. It gets really interesting when you look at the Miami Dolphins. You'll notice, obviously, for the Buffalo Bills, all the typical returning starters. I forgot to update the depth chart. It's Cody Ford and Darrell Williams, obviously, on the right side. So I do apologize for that oversight there. But when you look at the Miami side of the football, Christian Wilkins, Devon Godchaux. Those are the two big defensive tackle-looking guys, and they have Roquan Davis that mixes in as well. They play a lot of 34, but they also mix in the 43. They are the definition of multiple. So they're going to have Shaq Lawson on the edge as a traditional defensive end. You're really not going to see him dropping back into coverage a lot. He played 97% of their snaps. Same with Emmanuel Ogbah. You'll notice along that defensive line between Lawson and Wilkins and Godchaux and Davis and Ogbah, what's the one big difference between the Buffalo Bills depth chart and the Miami Dolphins depth chart? There's a lot less names. They don't rotate guys as much. So if the Buffalo Bills can continue to pick up first downs like they did last week, I think they're going to have a lot of success against this Miami Dolphins team, who gave up 28 first downs. 28 first downs to the New England Patriots of all teams. And that offense, where I don't even know if they know how to throw the football anymore.
29, actually.
Against the Dolphins last week. And then at linebacker, they're beat up. Landon Roberts is hurt, so it could be Camus Grugier-Hill, who's a smaller linebacker. Jerome Baker, we're going to talk about Jerome Baker in a little bit. He's a guy I think the Bills should be picking on this week. And then Kyle Van Noy dealing with that hand injury, only playing 66%. So they're thin in the front seven. There's some talent there, but they're very thin. And then you look in the secondary, this is where Miami has a huge advantage. This is where Miami has a huge advantage. They got Byron Jones to match up against Stephon Diggs. They have Xavier Howard to match up against John Brown. They have Noah Igbenegene and Eric Rowe to match up on Cole Beasley. And they have two decent safeties in McCain and then Rowe and Jones, the rookie, kind of flip-flop. They have a very deep secondary and a very good secondary. And what the Miami Dolphins like to do that, Josh Allen has struggled with in the past, and that's throwing against man-to-man coverage. So Josh Allen's going to have to he's going to have to lead receivers this week. He's going to have to throw jump balls this week. It's going to be a little bit different than what we face against the New York Jets.
It's going to be different. Byron Jones has that Achilles injury. He's been practicing in a limited fashion. So you wonder, I always worry about these Achilles injuries, man, because those are the ones where it's like at any given point in the game, that thing could come back and really like hinder you. So you wonder how close to 100% he's going to be. Obviously, last week, the Patriots really didn't even have to test that secondary. They ran all over the Dolphins. And I do agree with you that the types of throws Josh Allen would have to make, assuming these guys are all kind of up and healthy for the game, are going to be of that tighter nature. But I also, me personally, I don't expect the Bills are going to throw the ball 46 times again this week. That's just me. I expect the game plan to be more similar to what New England did. I expect us to go back to a run-focused approach for this game. But you're right. The strength of that Dolphins secondary does kind of present a situation where Josh has struggled in the past. So you hope that the coaching staff realizes that, and the coaching staff game plans to the team's strength like they did last week to attack the team's weakness in the Jets, which was their secondary. So I think, we're about to get into it, but I'm hoping that secondary for Miami doesn't even really play a factor into this game.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of flip-flopping in this Miami secondary. Byron Jones might be on a pitch count because of the injury. If he does, Nick Needham might finally get some play, and he had a decent year last year. Xavier Howard was on a pitch count. Noah Igbenegene was slipping out to the outside, and Jamal Perry was slipping inside to the nickel. Eric Rowe, they move all around. Mr. Natural, the Dolphins fan in the chat, said that Brandon Jones played pretty well last week. He did, and Bobby McCain's a good free safety. Very talented in that secondary, and that's why I highlighted these four names. Obviously, John Brown and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley are still going to have to do what they do. Josh Allen's going to have to throw them the ball. He's going to have to get chunk plays. That's going to happen. But I don't think it's going to happen at the volume that it happened against the New York Jets. I just don't. You're going to have to pick your shots more this week. Continue rolling out that play action. Stephon Diggs, John Brown can get separation. Like they can. It's not like we're rolling out terrible wide receivers. Someone said, is this an advantage or is it even? It's about even. I would say it's about even. But that's definitely a lot different from sort of the scenarios we're going to face every week. We're going to have the advantage most week. We don't have the advantage this week. It's definitely even. So it's up to Josh Allen. That's why his name is highlighted there. It's up to Josh Allen to throw those 50-50 balls, to throw receivers open. It's up to Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and Brian Dable to come back and figure out a way, whether it's going back to 11 personnel or going 12 personnel and bringing Tyler Kroft on the field. Get that run game working to take the pressure off of Josh Allen, because I don't think he can throw it 46 times this week. I think it's going to be a 30 to 35 type of passing game day for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, truth to heart says last week you said we wouldn't throw. I mean, I think we did say we were expecting about 35.
We expected 35 to 40. I said the game plan was going to be to throw it all over the New York Jets. Those words came out of our mouth last week. I wasn't expecting 46, but
yeah, we did say we were going to stick to the run, but we didn't think it was going to be an efficient game plan. Now, I didn't expect us to run as little as we did. I will agree with you there, but they did. So I agree with you here. I mean, look at. They always say it's a copycat league, right? Look at what the Patriots did last week. You've got a style of quarterback, obviously similar to Cam. The Patriots, last week against the Dolphins, you're talking about a team that ran for 5.2 a carry, 42 rushing attempts, right? Between Cam and the backs. Cam, 15 carries last week. Josh, I think, had 14, right? In week 1. So to me, this is like, I want to see a more of a, I want to see Daboll do the same thing he did last week and say, like, look, what's our strength going to be in this game? And it's going to be, I think, running the ball and taking the shots when it makes sense. I think that the Bills will and should have more success running the ball on a per carry basis this week than they did last week. So Moss and Singletary should both be able to be pretty effective in this game. The one thing I will say too, on that is that I want to see them run the ball out of more traditional formations. I want to see Josh Allen under center a little bit more. I want to see him dropping back and feeding the ball to the backs coming out of center to give them a little bit more momentum heading towards the line of scrimmage. And also in this particular situation, in this particular game, I think that type of play action will be more effective if they're establishing the run. So I think like last week when we were saying pass to set up the run, I think it's the opposite this week. I think it's run to set up the pass this week.
Yeah. I mean, that's spot on in my opinion. Like someone asked, do they play zone or man coverage? They play New England style man coverage. Brian Flores, Josh Boyer. It is very much a New England style man-to-man defense. If they were playing zone concepts last year, they were playing zone concepts because they didn't have the ponies. Xavier Howard was on IR. Nick Needham was starting quarterback for a while. Like they were pretty thin at corner last year. That's why they went out and got Byron Jones. That's why they went out and got Noah Igbenogene. That's why they went out, or that's why Xavier Howard is healthy now. There's a reason why those are the three corners now. That's not the same three corners that Josh Allen faced last year. It's a much, much, much better secondary. So, I mean, you're spot on there. Here's one area. Before we even get there, we need to remember that Brian Daboll comes from that sort of New England tree where it's you do what your opponent is bad at and you attack your opponent's weakness week in and week out. You find what your opponent's bad at and you take advantage of it. Last week, the Jets were really thin in the secondary. This week, I think Miami is going to struggle in the running game. So just as you had mentioned, it's going to be the run to set up the pass this week as opposed to last week where it was pass to set up the run. You still want to keep that balance, as you mentioned. What's encouraging this year is last year, I think Brian Daboll wanted to do the same thing. We had these conversations in the offseason when we thought we had a really good four receivers in Robert Foster and Zay Jones and Cole Beasley and John Brown. Oh, we can spread them out when we need to, and we can run, 12 personnel when we need to. We got everything. Turns out Josh Allen couldn't handle it last year. Josh Allen was getting confused with all the substitutions, the massive people subbing in, the massive people subbing out. So Brian Daboll had to simplify the offense last year for Josh Allen and go like straight 11 personnel because people coming on and off the field was hindering Josh Allen. It didn't look to me like it was hindering him yesterday. It seems like he's taken that next step in his development where he can handle guys coming in, guys coming out, consistently changes in packages, constant changes in packages on the fly. That's going to play to the Buffalo Bills' advantage against teams like this and moving forward because it opens up the playbook. It's not like they have to get in 12 personnel and pound the Miami Dolphins. They can mix it up. They can run that play action, as Josh Barrett just said. They can spread them out when they need to. They can bring it into 11, 12 personnel when they need to. There's a whole bunch of stuff they did. I think Lee Smith is going to be active this week. I think that's one thing you're going to see. But I want to pull up a name here, and I want to talk about this name because this is a guy who, when you go back, and I forgot to change the Jets logo on there. There we go. So when you go back and you look at it, where is it? Pulling it up here. Right here. Nope, wrong graphic again. Where is it? I'll get it right eventually. Right here. And I forgot. I still have the Jets logo in the corner, so I apologize for that too. Two screw-ups this week. Jerome Baker. Played 98% of the snaps last week. He wasn't the greatest. He wasn't the greatest in the world in pass protection. He got beat a couple of times. I think Dawson Knox could be an X factor in this game. I think Dawson Knox is a guy getting open over the middle of the field, being a safety blanket for Josh Allen, being able to beat a Jerome Baker off the line of scrimmage. I think Dawson Knox could be a huge X factor in this game.
Yeah, he could be. It depends, like on the volume, right, of the passing game. But I feel like you saw last week it was the big three. It was Brown, Beasley, and Diggs. We saw Knox get that, have those 2 catches, really nice catches. So you'd like to see maybe it's a little bit more. He's a little bit more involved this week than he was last week. Ryan Izzo for the Pats last week had the longest reception of the day for them, 25 yards as a tight end. So it would be nice to see Knox get unleashed a little bit more this week. And I think that, look, at the end of the day, if I think Chris Spencer asked us the question, what's Miami going to do to try to stop the run? Are they going to try to stack the box a little bit? And if that's the case, that's fine, because then what can happen? Dawson Knox can leak out or leak up over the middle of the field. If they're putting 7, 8 guys in the box to try to stop the run, he's going to have one-on-one matchups too, or potentially be leaking out into some open spots when they're playing that man-to-man. And I would imagine that Dawson Knox is going to have an advantage on any of those linebackers. The only one that you might say could handle him in coverage would be Van Noy. But again, he's had the hand injury, so you don't know how effective he might be on kind of like getting his hands up and kind of, pass defending in that regard. But it would make sense based on the matchup that Knox is a little bit more involved in the passing game. I would also like to see, this is a little outside the box. You saw it last week with the Niners. They used Kittle on a couple design runs. I wouldn't mind seeing Dayball mix in maybe a run or two for Dawson Knox, like a mini jet sweep like they did with Kittle on the Niners. But that might be a little too creative. We'll see. But I kind of like it.
Yeah, a lot of people mentioning the screen game, the bubble screen game. I think we're going to see that. The Dolphins fan in the chat was saying Jerome Baker's fast. He's a very athletic linebacker, but he was struggling in coverage last week. Ryan Izzo was taking advantage of him a couple of times. So I'm not saying like he's a terrible linebacker, but I'm saying if Ryan Izzo can exploit Jerome Baker, Dawson Knox can exploit Jerome Baker. So it's something to keep an eye out for, a guy who could possibly be an X factor. But at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to Josh Allen. Like, this is a quarterback who's going to have to manage the game, make sure he's calling the right plays at the line. He's getting the ball into his playmakers' hands so they can generate yards after the catch. No more of the screens to John Brown where the ball's at his ankles. No more of the balls to the Cole Beasley over the middle where he has to dive for him when he should catch him and run. He's got to put some of those short to intermediate balls on the money this week, and he's got to throw up those 50-50 balls. I'm encouraged by the 50-50 balls, though. The Dawson Knox 50-50 ball was great last game. He threw one up to Devin Singletary, which was on the money. The linebacker just made a really good play, and it was Devin Singletary, not a wide receiver. And you mentioned this last show. He threw one up to John Brown, where a lot of people said, hey, if that's Stephon Diggs, that wide receiver's coming down with it. So Josh Allen was throwing some quality 50-50 balls last week. We see him to continue to grow in that department. So it's something that he's going to have to do this week in order to be successful because, as we've stated, Miami's going to be playing that man-to-man defense. Yeah,
and he's going to have to, and I think that he's going to have one-on-one coverage, right? I mean, he's going to have a lot of one-on-one coverage because of that, and the play action should help a little bit with that, assuming we can get the running game going a little bit. Josh Allen actually throws really well out of play action. So that's why I want to see that more traditional under center play action. I don't want to see the zone read as much as we saw last week. I thought that slowed down our running game more than it probably would have been even normally against the stout Jets front. It'll be interesting to see on zone read if they do bring that back into the game plan this week and try to have Allen run against what we probably expect to be a little bit more of a stacked box this week. I would assume we're going to see less zone read, but the Bills seem to be kind of fine with him. But I just don't feel like we run the ball effectively out of that as much as as much as of an advantage as we might have sometimes with Allen running the ball. I just feel like our running game is going to be more effective out of a more traditional set this week.
Yeah, I mean, what we did last week was just so new. Like you've never seen the Bills run out of those sets. So it might be just a scenario where we just got to get used to it. Like the offensive line just needs to get used to that style of blocking, which is a little bit different. So maybe week to week it carries over. Like maybe the Buffalo Bills don't try to go more traditional in the run game. Maybe they keep trying to do it and just think like, all right, it's just going to take some time. It's just going to take some getting used to. Maybe this is our offense, the offense that we ran against the Jets. I am still leaning towards that we're going to come back down to a lot more 11 personnel this week, a lot more 12 personnel. I think you're going to see the Buffalo Bills run the ball a steady amount. I think you're going to see passes in the 30 to 35 range as opposed to the 40 to 50 range. I think you're going to see the passes come down by about 10. Trying to sustain some more drives. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how the Buffalo Bills try to attack the Miami Dolphins and how this offense changes from week to week. But, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it last year. We saw it the year before. This Miami Dolphins team is far better, especially in the secondary. But Josh Allen owns the Miami Dolphins. And, we've talked about Josh Allen's legs. If they're playing man-to-man and they're turning their backs on Josh Allen, and the Miami Dolphins can't generate a solid pass rush. I know this is a contentious topic this week. I'm not even talking about design runs. I'm talking about those runs where it's sort of just Josh Allen sees an opening and goes for it. We could see some 30, 40-yard runs this week, some big, big runs from Josh Allen, because that's what a man-to-man defense does. Those guys turn their backs on the quarterback. So it'll be really interesting to see who they have spying on them. Probably Kyle Van Noy. It'll be really interesting. We've got a super chat here. You want to read it for us?
Yeah, Bills fan 1970, $10. Thanks for the super chat, and also thanks for being a subscriber on YouTube. Haven't gotten an evacuation order yet. You can't get rid of me that easily. How about my prediction for last Sunday? 280, 2 TDs, 60 and a TD, and 1 fumble. That's pretty damn close there, Bills fan 1970. So shout out to you. Really nice and close prediction there. The total touchdowns are right on there and really close on the rushing too. I agree with you, right? When they turn the back, when they're playing man defense, that's where Allen can really improvise on some of those runs. So maybe you see less design runs this week. Like I said, with the zone read, like I kind of do hope we go away from that a little bit. I'm not saying we should go away from it like forever, but I'm saying for this week, I would like to see us go away from it a little bit. And like, yeah, fine, improvise, scramble on some of those plays. And like, that's really worked for him in the past against Miami. His career long rushing TD, Josh Allen's, was 30 yards, and it was against Miami. So we know he's had success running against them. So yeah, I mean, I don't want him to stop running necessarily. I know that was like a big heated top takes on Twitter this week around like Allen's running. So you got to let him be who he is. I mean, you just hope that he's smarter with the football. And you mentioned, the, throwing up the jump balls. I think, when you talked about the Beasley throw or like the Singletary throw, like some of these throws were like, okay, we would like to see him put it more. I think execution is going to be more key this week. Like we got away with some bad execution in the second half last week. I think that margin for error is going to be a little bit smaller this week. Miami is a better team than the Jets without question. So clean up some of that execution. And like everyone was yelling at me last week, hey, it's only week 1. Well, now it's week 2. So are we going to say that again this week if the execution's bad? It's only week 2. So gotta start cleaning up some of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, it's got to get better for sure. Let's open it now up for questions. Like what do you guys want to talk about? What are some talking points that you guys in the comment section want to talk about? I know the kickoff just started here in Cincinnati. There's already a play being reviewed. Did A.J. Green catch this deep ball from Joe Burrow? And the answer is no. He only got 1 foot in. So Joe Burrow is going to start the game off for 1.
All right. So we got a good one coming out of the gate right after those last few comments we made. Lone Wolf says you shouldn't need design quarterback runs against a team that has trouble stopping the run. That's why you drafted running backs in the 3rd round 2 years in a row. And I think there's some validity to that, right? I think that a lot of the runs last week from Cam, like some were obviously designed, some were improvised, but I kind of agree here. I think, and that gets back to my point about the zone read, like improvised runs, those are typically your chunkiest plays, right? When you're talking about quarterback runs. Now I know we've had a couple that were, pretty solid design run plays, but if you go back to some of Josh Allen's biggest runs, they've all been kind of improvised, right? They've all been scrambles or things like that. So I'm kind of with Lone Wolf there on that point.
We got Justin Plotnikov coming in with the Bills for life. Let's fucking go. The Conor McGregor. Let's fucking go. Is that Conor McGregor or Fat Bastard? I can't tell at this point. But
we'll go with Conor.
Yeah. Bills Mafia Man 55 says, do we come out in the gun and spread it again, or are we in the I formation with two tight ends for more smash mouth football? I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think we come out in a lot of 11 and 12 personnel. 12 personnel would be Tyler Kroft and Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox could flex in and play that fullback position. 11 personnel is sort of just spread to run type of deal. I don't think you're going to see – don't get me wrong. You're going to see it at some points in this game because I think it's a part of our offense now. But I think the Bills led the league in like 4 and 5 receiver sets this week, which was absolutely insane to me. That's the Buffalo Bills. I don't think you're going to see that again this week. I'm not saying they're not going to use it. I'm not sitting here saying the Buffalo Bills are going to wind back the clock to 1994 and completely fundamentally change their offense from last week. But I think they will incorporate more traditional run sets this week. I really do. I think you'll see Dawson Knox in line, 11 personnel. I think you'll see Tyler Kroft on the field, 12 personnel. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I still think we can be effective while mixing in maybe some more traditional offensive sets.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's someone trolling us here in the comments section. Graham Cracker says your ceiling with Allen is maybe wild card round. He's not good enough like Flacco to be accurate and consistent or clutch.
Maybe he meant prime. He might have meant prime Flacco.
Flacco was a Super Bowl MVP. Remember, he's elite according to Andrew says. I think running backs in the passing game are key. Why don't you give your thoughts on this one? Because I know you have a lot of opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything in the short to intermediate is going to be key this game because it's like Eric Rowe is going to be that sort of hybrid player that they use to move up into the box and to move around. And I think he's going to have his hands full with Cole Beasley. And when he has his hands full with Cole Beasley, when he has his hands full with like Stephon Diggs in the slot, when they have their hands full with all those different things, I think the easiest way to move the football on a team that plays man-to-man defense, get the ball to your running backs, whether it's on a misdirection or even just a straight throw, make a man miss and go. Because when people are playing man-to-man defense, they turn their backs to you. And that's how you can get a lot of yards after the catch. And you can find a lot of lanes once you catch the football when people's backs are turned to you. So, yes, man-to-man means a linebacker is going to be mirroring Zach Moss and following him out of the backfield. Same with Devin Singletary. But you make one man miss, and you're going to have a lot of running lanes in front of you because they play that man-to-man defense and turn their back. So, Andrew, I think you're spot on. Getting those running backs involved in the passing game this week is going to be big as well.
Yeah, and Bills fan 1970 now getting to the running backs in the actual running game. We're going to see a lot more from Singletary and Moss, but do you think this could be another career game for Knox? I mean, we talked about it. This could be I think it's an opportunity for Knox, right? I think it's just a matter of whether or not there's enough volume there for him to kind of really do that. Now, could he end up coming out of this game with 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown? Yeah. And I think by the end of it, when we look at the passing stat lines, we could look back and say, well, that was actually quite a good game. Like you said, I don't think the huge amount of volume is going to be there for the big three like it was last week. I don't expect us to throw the ball 45 times. We throw the ball 30, 35 times. Knox contributes 4 or 5 catches for 40, 50 yards and a touchdown. That's a really nice game for him. And the thing around, the comment around, we're going to see a lot more from Singletary and Moss. I mean, the Patriots had 27 carries from running backs last week out of 42 of their carries. So there should be volume there for these guys this week, and it should be efficient volume. I would expect it to be efficient volume, over 4 yards a carry from the two of them. Now, I don't know what kind of split we'll see. It was pretty, I think it was dead even last week. Didn't they each have 9 carries or something like that? So I could see them each with 12 to 13, 10 to 12 carries this week again. And they could each kind of be around maybe that 40 to 50 yard mark on the ground. I could see that. Let's
go back to the receivers for a second too, because I don't think I meant to mention this earlier and I didn't mention it, but we talk about Josh Allen and taking that next step, right? We want him to take that next step as a quarterback. I'm literally getting goosebumps on the back of my neck. The hairs on the back of my neck is standing up just thinking about it. Picture a world where Josh Allen comes out this Sunday and there's Byron Jones on one side and Xavier Howard on another side and Eric Rowe playing the joker position and Brian McCann dropping back into safety and Noah Benigine playing the slot corner position, a very, very good secondary. Picture all of those DBs out there, very, very good DBs. And Josh Allen saying, I don't care. I'm a real quarterback in this league. I'm going to throw it at you anyway. And hitting Stephon Diggs on a quality number of targets, still getting John Brown, at the depth of target, getting him those big plays, those chunk plays. Imagine Josh Allen just throwing all caution to the wind. And instead of trying to play around Miami's strengths, they just take it to him. That would be something that's really exciting to see. And I know Graham Cracker's throwing off my point here in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, that comes down to more of a McDermott and Dayball decision, though, doesn't it? I mean, it's less on Josh Allen and more of the game plan. I feel like if that's the case, does McDermott say, look, we tried to roll over the Jets last week and we had some execution issues in the second half, but I'm confident in our game plan, and we do that. I don't know, right?
So is it a matter of, okay, this is our offense now, we have to fix the running game within this offense? Or, like, I'm sorry, I love the way Josh Allen played in week 1, and I know this offense picked up 31 first downs, but I feel like a lack of running the football is not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think week 1 was a game plan decision, and I think I think that that's a good thing, right? I think it's a good thing because I think and again, we only have one game to go by, right? If they come out this week, let's say, and they run the ball 40 times, pass the ball 20, kind of like the Patriots did, then we know, they're game planning for the strength of our team, which we believe is in both facets, right? Passing and running, but we're going to attack the weakness of the defense. That's going to be our game plan. Our game plan is going to be to attack the weakness of the defense, and we're going to do that this week against Miami by running the ball effectively. If they do that, then I feel like the coaching staff is going week to week with the game plan. And I don't think they're going to say our offense is this or our offense is that. Our offense is going to change from week to week, depending on the opponent, which I think good teams do, right? Good offenses do that. I mean, obviously there are exceptions. Like Andy Reid's known to be pass happy, but we saw what he did week 1 with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his new toy, his new rookie there. And he ran the ball a lot more than we're used to seeing him because they were up in the game and they were running it effectively. So I'd like to see that philosophy from the Bills. You have good enough players on offense that you don't have to be a running team. You don't have to be a passing team. You can be whatever team you want to be from week to week, depending on the defense.
Yeah, it'll be super interesting. And let's, again, in the comment section, light us up. Don't just bicker back and forth with Graham Cracker. You know what he's trying to do to you.
He's trolling everybody.
You know what Graham Cracker's trying to do. But Thursday Night Football has officially begun. Joe Burrow leading the team down the field. But again, blow up the comment sections. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'll stay here for about another 25, 30 minutes, probably around the hour 15 mark like we usually do. But let's shift the focus back to the defense a little bit because I'm trying to think of what our defense has to do to be successful against Miami, because who cares how good our offense is? I mean, I think they'll be good enough to put up 20-plus points again. I definitely think they will be. That's my expectation, is they put up 20-plus points again. But all of that is really moot if we could shut down their offense. Now, the biggest concern to me is I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick's got it in the deep ball department anymore. I don't think you're going to see Ryan Fitzpatrick throw the football down the field. And the numbers back that up. I think he only attempted 2 passes deep down the field last game. More than 20-plus yards in the air. So Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to try to beat you in the short to intermediate. That's where Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chan Gailey, that offense, it's timing, it's yak, all that stuff. And it's all predicated on a power run, on sort of power run. And I think that in a typical week, if Edmonds and Milano were healthy, it's okay, we will rush 5 and we will drop everybody back and try to get pressure with 5 on a young offensive line. And as Andrew Miller says, create turnovers. But you still got to stop that power run with Jordan Howard and all that stuff that Chan Gailey's going to try to run. And that becomes immensely more difficult if your linebackers are out. That's my biggest concern. So I hope Tremaine Edmonds is healthy. And then I think that you would probably try to, maybe they use AJ Klein as that fifth guy who's got to focus on the running game, and Tremaine Edmonds, who we don't want to get as much contact. Maybe it's Tremaine Edmonds dropping back into covers this week more than playing the run. Maybe that's something we see this week. So that's my biggest concern is we got to create pressure with 4 or 5 guys. Because if we have to start sending 6 guys, 7 guys, Ryan Fitzpatrick, we play a zone defense. I can't picture us coming out man-to-man and trying to bully these corners or these receivers this week. I can't picture us changing drastically on defense. Ryan Fitzpatrick will pick apart his zone if he's got time to throw. You know what I'm saying? So if we're not sending as many guys back and we're not creating a pressure, Ryan Fitzpatrick can pick you apart and have one of those Ryan Fitzpatrick days where he looks really, really good. So, man, it's a rough week to have those linebackers out. I really hope at least Tremaine Evans plays. It's eating. You can tell. If you're watching the show, you can tell my mind has been on linebackers this whole show. It's eating away at me what the Buffalo Bills are going to do defensively.
Yeah, and I mean, we got pressure last week. We got home 3 times, right? But I feel like there were a lot of times last week where we were getting pressure. We just couldn't quite get all the way home. And that was with Edmonds and Milano, in coverage. So it does make you worry a little bit that the Fitzmagic will come out for a little bit. How much more Fitzmagic does he have in the tank? Hopefully, I love the guy, but hopefully not for this game. Stopping the run is going to be, priority 1. We did a good job, obviously, against Le'Veon last week. He got hurt. But the Jets were just like severely overmatched from their line, versus ours. And that was pretty evident. So, Miami's line is young, like you said, but I think they're a more talented group than the Jets are up front. So our defensive line is going to have to kind of make up for that a little bit. If they know that, let's say Milano's out behind them, defensive line, it's their time to shine this week, right? I mean, they've got to come up, they've got to come ready to play. They've got to set the tone in the trenches, help stop the run as much as they can. Maybe Zimmer, a guy that played pretty well last week. He's a guy that, did pretty good against the run last week. You could see, I don't know. They called up, when did they call? They called him up on Saturday, right? Last week. So we'll see if maybe he gets the call again to come up. But, and the other thing is, like you mentioned it earlier, like, is AJ Epinesa going to be inactive again? Or maybe do they activate him this week to try to help against the run?
Yeah, with the depletion at linebacker, you could see AJ Epinesa playing this week. We have a comment here from Mr. Natural, the Dolphins fan in the chat. We got 2 rookies starting on the O-line that played pretty good against the Pats. That's another thing that we haven't talked about yet is the Dolphins offensive line. I would put right up there with the Jets offensive line, where they're young, they have some potential, but yeah, they played well against the Patriots. But guess what? The Buffalo Bills defensive line, one of the few times you can say this in the past 20 years, the Buffalo Bills defensive line runs circles around with the New England Patriots, the talent they have in their front 7. Runs absolute circles around them. The Buffalo Bills are absolutely stacked 2 deep at every position along the defensive front, and they are going to be bringing it to this Miami offensive line. So while Miami's offensive line might have had a good day last week, I find it hard to believe that the Miami Dolphins offensive line is going to have a good day this week. Ed Oliver, Jefferson pressuring up the middle, a rookie in Solomon Kindley, a rookie in a new guy in Ted Karras, and Eric Flowers. Flowers is a big man. Kindley is a big man. Ted Karras is not the biggest of men. Ted Karras got pushed around a little bit last week. Quinn Jefferson, Ed Oliver got to go in there and they got to do work. They have to use the fact that they are more agile, they're more slippery type of defensive tackles, those 3 techniques, and they need to slither by and not overpower Flowers and Kindley and get by Karras and force a lot of pressure up the middle onto Ryan Fitzpatrick. And then who are we going to have on the edge? Trent Murphy, who was showing immense great power, a man reborn last week, along the edge, setting the edge. Ryan Fitzpatrick runs into Trent Murphy, doing his job, setting the edge, gets the sack. And on the other side, Austin Jackson, just like last week, Mekhi Becton, first-round pick, left tackle, raw. Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison are pros. And they have pass rush moves that Austin Jackson has never seen before. So I'm fairly confident that, once again, our defensive line can take it to the Miami Dolphins in terms of pass rushing. My concern is against the run. If my biggest concern is that with the linebacker depth lacking, with Starlo Delele out, with Vernon Butler playing in his first game, with Quentin Jefferson and Ed Oliver being smaller and Kindley and Flowers being a little bit bigger, my biggest concern this week, and this is like I said, it's been eating away at me, is that they're able to establish a run game. It scares the shit out of me. I really hope they're not able to establish a run game, but if they do, the game could be a little bit closer than we think.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that last year we were going up against the likes of Kalen Ballage in the run game for
Mhm.
Miami. It's a little bit different this year with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida in the mix.
Well,
Both,
Miles Gaskin was the bell
yeah,
cow last week.
he was, but Flores did said they're going to use all three, so that's
Mhm.
another thing. They're going to have fresh legs in, right? They're going to have three guys that they're going to rotate in and out. I mean, obviously last week Le'Veon Bell is more, when healthy, Le'Veon Bell is more talented than any
Mhm.
of those guys. I think people wouldn't disagree with that, but he's just one guy. Frank Gore,
Mhm.
came in after that and was a non-factor. But between Gaskin, Howard, Breida, they all bring you something a little bit different, and that could be a problem for the Bills with going up against fresh legs there. So I'm with you. I am concerned a little bit about stopping the run, but I think as long as the Bills can get ahead and keep the down and distance, in their favor, and they can get ahead of Miami on the scoreboard, that should become less of an issue. I think if the game's tight, um, and Miami's running the ball pretty well, that's where, you let them hang around and
Mhm.
things could get interesting. So
Lone Wolf says, "Who does that Oliver take advantage of this week?" Kinley and Flowers are big boys. So, Kinley and Flowers are big boys. So for him, he's going to have to be slippery. He's going to probably have to use more agility moves to get past them. But if we're looking for him to overpower people the way we saw him overpower like Brian Winters last year, attack Ted Karras in the middle of that defense, the center all day.
Karras
If
for
he
sure.
attacked Ted Karras. So let's get it started we got 15 minutes left. Let's get it started with the predictions here. Joshua Barrett says, what are your score predictions? Start hitting us up with your score predictions in the chat, and let's get it started with these score predictions. I started last week, so you want to go this week? Right?
Yeah, I'll go this week. Let me, as I always do, let me kind of level set the line here for everyone. Let me give
6 points.
the 6. The Bills favored. The total is 41. So again, another one of the lower totals of the week. You predicted, I think it was 27-13 last week, which was pretty damn close, and I had 24-10. So both decently close. I think that this game will be a little bit tougher, although I do think the Bills are still the much better team. I do think that, being on the road shouldn't really matter that much again with no fans.
So home field advantage for the Bills.
Yeah, no kidding. Right. So I still think the Bills win fairly comfortably, but I'm going to say it's going to be a little bit closer this week. I'll say Bills 24, Miami 17.
All right. I'm going. Let's read off some of these predictions first. Josh Barrett coming in 35-10. Sean Munley 35-13. Martin Bradstreet 27-9. John Mikowski 35-17.
A lot of scores in the 30s for the Bills. People are
Kyler
expecting.
Klein 27-13. Andrew Miller 24-13. Riley King 31-10. Daniel Gowries 34-16. That's a different one. I don't really see 16 a lot. New World 999 41-9. Rick James 24-13. Mr. Natural. So we got the Dolphins fan. 28 points for Miami. I don't know about that one, but Lone Wolf 24-16. Daniel Gowries 34-16. Bills Mafia Man 30-10. Billy Stevens 40-10. Bills fan 1970 20.
We lost Judge. He's going to come back in hopefully. So I'll hold down the fort till he gets back. All right. So what else we got for predictions? Mr. Natural says 13,000 fans going to be.
Remember that time when I was scrolling and accidentally hit the back button on my computer and left StreamYard?
Yeah.
So, all right. So my score prediction is the same as last week, 27-13. And here's my thought process being it. This is 3 touchdowns and 2 scoring drives. And I think that's something. I think 5 scoring drives a week should be expected from this offense. 5 scoring drives a week, 20-plus points every week should be expected from this offense. 24 points. There might be a couple of games this year where I might say, like when we play Pittsburgh, I might just go out there and say, just win. Just win. I don't care if you score 6, just win. There might be a couple of games and a couple of defenses we play this year where I might make a comment like that. I don't think we're going to roll over this team. Nick Chubb just had a nice touchdown run for Cleveland. I don't think we're going to roll over the Miami Dolphins and Josh Allen's going to have as big of a day as we used to because I think they're better in the secondary, but I still think we're the better team. And I still think we're the better offense. I think our offense is better than their defense. And so I still predict that we can put up enough points, mid-20. So I'm going to go 27 again, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. It's not a step down, though, just because we scored just as many points. If anything, it's a step up because the competition is better than last week. We should have curb stomped the New York Jets last week. I will attribute it to execution errors first week. All right, first week is over. Go put up that same performance against the Jets, against the Miami Dolphins. But in being the same performance, you score the same amount of points because you should have scored more points last week, if that makes sense. So last week, 27-13 because of the rust. I thought they should have done better. This week, 27-13, I think that's a legitimate 27-13. You score a decent number of points, the number of points you're supposed to score in the National Football League, and you hold this Miami team that doesn't have a lot of weapons on offense to the proper amount of points. So 27-13 again. Tyler Bass could be the X factor in this game too. Tyler Bass is like things could be tighter in the red zone this week against the Dolphins than they were against the Jets. Things could be tighter in the red zone. So we might have to ask Tyler Bass to kick more field goals this week.
But maybe this is good for him, right? Maybe if we do ask him to kick field goal in some pressure situations and he makes them, that's what he needs for confidence. Because let's be honest, like the field goal attempts he had last week were not necessarily pressure packed, which you can say it's good or bad, right? You could say, well, it's bad that he missed on non-pressure filled kicks. But at the same time, you could say, well, if he can turn around and then make a couple pressure kicks this week, maybe the confidence goes all the way the other direction and, he's in the right frame of mind. So, yeah, you could be right.
Lone Wolf says divisional road games can be tricky, but we are the better team.
Yeah.
It's also going to be high 80s on Sunday. High 80s and humid in Miami. So we could see a lot of players coming off the football field with cramps and soft tissue injuries. We didn't have a chance to sort of, I don't know, I guess the offseason hasn't been as grueling in my opinion because it's been shorter. So maybe the Bills are a little bit less prepared for that heat. There's another comment here that I liked. Mr. Natural said, who came up with the squish the fish BS? I don't hear it from Pats or Jets. Of course, Pats and Jets fans aren't that creative.
The funny thing is like, I don't know who came up with it, but the squish the fish thing, you think about it in the 90s, it was like Kelly versus Marino. And that was really the rivalry, right? For a lot of people growing up with the Bills, in that Super Bowl era, the Dolphins were the Bills' biggest rival at that time. So a lot of people you ask that are like in their 30s and 40s will tell you that the Dolphins are their most hated team of the division because the Jets weren't really that great then, and the Pats were really bad in the early 90s. So a lot of people say the Dolphins, over the course of time are the Bills' biggest rival, and Squish the Fish kind of came out of that. I don't know the person who came up with it though.
Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, throw in your last second questions, your last second takes, your last second comments into the comment section. We'll read a couple off here in the last 5 or so minutes as we roll through, as Thursday Night Football is kicking off. We will bid you adieu shortly. But before we do, and while you are filling up that comment section with your last second takes and questions, a friendly reminder, shave your balls, people. Shave your balls, okay? If you want to keep your lady happy, if you want your Sundays free, to play to watch Bills football, you got to keep your lady happy Monday through Saturday, and there's nothing that keeps your lady happy like shaved balls. All right.
24/17.
Shave your balls, Manscaped. Promo before you give your score again. Put the promo code back. Things look. It seems awkward when I'm talking about shaving your balls and you cover the logo of Manscaped. It just seems like I'm a guy here.
I was trying to make you feel very uncomfortable.
So Manscaped, you'll be a refined gentleman Monday through Saturday. You will please your woman. You will have Sundays off to crack open your beer, eat your chips, and watch football. Okay. Go over to manscaped.com, promo code Fanatics, 20% off plus free shipping. You will not regret it. Not to mention, you feel a little bit lighter during the tailgate, maybe, with those shaved balls. You feel a little bit lighter, a little more agile, help you break through those tables, help you sling an extra beer or two. Just head over to manscaped.com. It's worth it. Trust me.
Yeah, I ordered something from there today. Actually, the weed whacker. It's supposed to be for nose hair. Everyone knows I'm freaking old now. I'm the old man of the group, and I got some nose hair I got to take care of, and that thing will do it for me. So I'm waiting for that to come in and see how that works. So you got to take care of that too. You don't want to be like getting close with your lady and her looking at your nose hair coming out of your nose. Probably not the biggest turn on there.
The underwear is super comfortable too. I don't know. The underwear is my fiance tried to wear the underwear the other day. That's how comfortable it is. She's like, I want it. She's like, do they make ladies underwear? And I'm like, I mean, I'm sure I can buy you something. It'll say Manscaped on the front. I don't know how into that you're going to be, but someone said, did you see Gronk's Manscaped commercial? I've never seen the Gronk Manscaped commercial.
No,
but
I have not. Now I
I'm
gotta
sure
look
it's
for
a
it.
good one. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it appears we're in spot down. What's Ray we got to say? Ray in the house. Hopefully, Allen can take a load off the injured defense and just score along with the running backs. I mean, what a way to finish up the show, right? How fitting would that be? The defense carried the offense so much last year. How great would it be if the offense could return the favor this year? And when the defense is maybe hurting a little bit, the offense takes a load off. I mean, what if the Buffalo Bills came out? Like, what a statement that would be from the Buffalo Bills. All right, we screwed up last week. We didn't execute this week. We fixed it this week. They come out, drop a 40 bomb on the Miami Dolphins, and the game is never in question, and our defense can let up as many points as they need to. How great would that be? If we win a game like 45-27 or something like that. That'd be awesome.
It would be awesome. Singletary scores and hands the ball to Allen to spike it, whereas Allen's usually scoring, handing the ball to someone else for them to spike it. Let's get those running backs in the mix this week and blow up the Dolphins, man. Let's go to 2-0.
Mr. Natural, it was a pleasure. You definitely have a more level head on your shoulder than the Jets fans that we encountered last week, so we appreciate it. Come catch us out on the pregame show. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, we will be back Sunday. We'll be back Sunday morning starting at 9:30. I will be kicking off the coverage from 9:30 to 10 Eastern time right here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Sportscaster. Casey Reed and Kyle Knapp will take over from 10 to 11, take all your fantasy questions, talk Bills fantasy, talk a little bit about the Bills as well, some gambling. And then 11 o'clock, me and you are taking it back over up until game time at around 12:30. So join us back here on Sunday. Tomorrow is everyone's favorite, the Rico Report. So you can hear from Rico tomorrow. Bills Overdue on Saturday. And then catch us at 9:30 on Sunday morning. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you know what to say.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.